You want the truth. And if the truth is freedom, and if I need to be free of the pain-free state, my pain will not go away. If I need to learn freedom from the pain-free state, if I need to learn freedom from this physical disability or physical condition, I need to learn freedom from healing the physical body. That condition, that affliction, that wound, that whatever it is, will become invisible.
Yes.
Because the body is no longer germane to the truth. If I'm living in the truth, the body will not hamper me from living the truth.
And all I can say is that I do not know how the Holy Spirit or that realm will come in to bring about peace to the situation. That I have to leave completely up to not my idea of what it needs to look like. Because things do happen here that seem miraculous, that happen within the physical world and everything else. Like I said, Jesus healing the paralytic. Who is it for? It's for everyone who sees it. It's for everyone. So you said the Pharisees and all the people who were in that room who experienced this person who they'd seen in the town and everything else who cannot walk. And all of a sudden now he picks up his mat and he walks out. That is to prove the power and the love of God. Everyone has to be in awe of that. It's to change the mind and bring God present, to magnify the Lord, as you know, Mary actually bearing a physical being in the illusion that is called the Son of God is an avatar that's dropped in here so that we have a way to relate to that which is God, because you're getting further and further lost in the dream, further and further lost in the dream. And if you get too lost, you won't even know where to put your faith. God wouldn't do that to us.
This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
The truth.
Truth and peace.
Where are we, paragraph 6?
Yes. Okay.
The inevitable compromise is the belief that the body must be healed and not the mind. For this divided goal has given both an equal reality which could be possible only if the mind is limited to the body and divided into little parts of seeming wholeness but without connection. This will not harm the body, but it will keep the delusional thought system in the mind. Here then is healing needed. Here then is where the healing is needed, and it is here that healing is. For God gave healing not apart from sickness, nor established remedy where sickness cannot be. They're together, and when they are seen together, all attempts to keep both truth and illusion in the mind, where both must be, are recognized as dedication to illusion and given up when brought to truth, and seen as totally unreconcilable with truth in any respect or any way.
So long as I'm wanting to put both truth and illusion and keep both in my mind, then supposedly, I mean, maybe you're reading this differently, but by doing that, if I can become aware of that, that's what I am doing, I will actually give it up, because I'll realize that it's irreconcilable. You know, if I am trying to keep both truth and illusion in my mind, I have truth and I say, you know, and I'm speaking with forked tongue, basically. And in my mind, I have some things that I will bring to truth, but I hold back on other things. And I say, you know, I want this. I also want it my way and these other things. Well, I'm trying to keep them both in the same place. That's an irreconcilable place.
Let's take my skin graft situation, which
Okay.
I choose intentionally as an extreme case of where a person is locked into a physical condition that really, there's not really much hope of a quote-unquote physical healing there. And yet the mind can persist in saying, I will never be happy until there is a physical healing, which leads to living a life in a continuously regretful, bitter state.
Right.
You know, and a sense of being rejected by others, judging the self, judging God, judging whatever, because of being trapped in that problem. That's a situation where the mind has decided that it's isolated in behind that mask.
Yeah,
It's got a skin mask, and
it's
the
in
mind.
the skin body, and that's it. It doesn't really have another alternative.
Now it says it's not going to hurt the body. The Course says doing that isn't going to hurt the body, but it will allow your delusional thought system to stay intact.
Right.
In other words, it's a guy with a skin problem, and that's the mind that is being healed, the guy with the skin problem. No, it's not. There's a much larger healing going on. It's the healing of the sonship. And if that event, that occasion of a skin mask comes into a fellowship of people, a group of people, a community, the healing is going to be in the whole community. That mind isn't isolated to behind that guy's graft job.
Right.
That mind is part of all of his brothers. And there would be a form of exultant, miraculous freedom and release if he found that he can be loved in spite of that.
Right.
He can express himself and people won't wince. He can. That would be the truth. And the thing is that truth would heal an entire community. And it's what you talked about, where sometimes people, you know, that kid that tours high schools and he has no legs or arms, you know, and yet he's got a girlfriend, he jumps off the high dive, he goes water skiing. It's like everybody goes, come on, give me a break.
Yeah.
But, you know, these people can be a point of ecstatic hopefulness in something beyond being trapped in the physical body. That's why people love to see this kid give his talk, you know, is that you can give hope that we're beyond the body. You know, that there's going to be someone out there who is, let's say, a fading beauty of some sort, and that they see this guy and realize he's joyful, he's present, he's still there, he's doing this thing, and they go, you know, they have to turn within and say, my fading beauty has made my life sad, and here's this person who doesn't have that. I know this is a cliche, it happens, but this is how these things happen. In other words, the healing is in the community.
And so, as with fear and love, they do not coexist within the same space. When you're in a place of fear, you cannot experience love. And when you're in a place of complete love, you do not experience fear. They are mutually exclusive.
The norm is the compromise. The normal state of affairs is this compromise of it's my mind, it's my healing, and that until I get that healing, this mind, this partial mind will be afflicted. And I will look for proofs that my nightmares are true.
Right.
Instead of recognizing the truth of the matter, the truth, which is I'm in a world, and the success or failure, in other words, my realization of the truth has nothing to do with what I think is my ache, pain, physical affliction, burn,
Right.
whatever.
Right. And, you know, in that kind of like symbolic analogy and everything else, we all wear our personality mask as the body walking through this space and world and everything else all the time. Paragraph 7. Truth and illusion have no connection. This will remain forever true, however much you seek to connect them. But illusions are always connected, as is truth. Each is united, a complete thought system, but totally disconnected to each other. And to perceive this is to recognize where separation is and where it must be healed. The result of an idea is never separate from its source. The idea of separation produced the body and remains connected to it, making it sick because of the mind's identification with it. You think you are protecting the body by hiding this connection, for this concealment seems to keep your identification safe from the attack of truth. So this one is just basically letting us know how we keep ourselves in the idea of separation, because once we buy into the illusion that I'm just a body, and I'm just this body who thinks through, you know, a brain in a body and everything. If you can perceive it, it says to perceive this, to perceive that illusion and truth have no connection, is to recognize where separation is and where it must be healed, which means it must be healed in the mind, because that's where I'm trying to keep truth and illusion in the same place.
The truth is not off there, beautiful, wonderful green hills, wealth, health, trouble-free.
Right.
You know, the truth isn't this trouble-free state.
No, it's not.
This troubled state that we have it's the bearer of truth. See, that's why it's troubled. It's troubled because it bears the truth. If when I say bears the truth, it is not the truth.
Right.
The troubled state that I have, no matter what it is a messenger of God, a messenger of truth, trying to reach in to my mind, my illusory state. In other words, this world out here is neutral. The world all around me, everywhere here, this is the body, the health, the this, the that, the pain, my interpretation. In its essence is neutrality. And as neutrality, it's neither this nor that. Now the Course is saying that its very invention was created as separation.
Yes.
It was created as separation.
Yeah.
So it tends to carry sickness with it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it was intended to.
Yeah, the illusion produced the body. And so with it came sickness, because as soon as you believe that the sickness is in the mind, that you could be separated.
Healing is another name for the mind of God, the Holy Spirit. Healing, as soon as the sickness of the separation, the sickness of the interpretation of the body as a separating influence, the unifying influence was glued to it. It's not in a separate realm. It's not like the Holy Spirit's out here hanging out in some weird convention center, and over here in some prison is the ego's realm. They're not separate like that. Do you understand?
Right.
This is the point I want to try to make. They're not slipping around, and like you say, well, I'm going to jump off the illusion and go direct to the mind of God. It's not the way it is. They're glued together.
Well, right, but one's asleep. You know, basically one is just not aware that.
No, this is a big butt. We got to
Okay.
get over, as Pee Wee Herman said, tell me about your big butt. And they are together. They are available all the time. Because why? Because I'm here. I don't have to jump off of my illusion into my beautiful heaven.
Okay.
It's a reinterpretation. You don't jump anywhere. You create partnership that clarifies, in other words, heals the mind.
Yes.
It's this The definition of flipping from here's, let's say the ego's got the upper hand and they're fighting like this, like that scene you're like, good and evil, good and evil. You know, it's like, okay, so you've got the illusion on top and you flip it over. They're still the same. It's opposite sides of the same coin. To think that they're in different places, to think that my sore hip, to think that my physical affliction, to think that my third world war is somehow separate and different and apart from heaven is a misinterpretation of what the Holy Spirit and what God is doing. God didn't create another world of dreamy wonder that he says, hey, you know what? When you created your nightmare, I created a world of dreamy wonder. It sounds like Stevie Wonder, doesn't it?
Go this way.
Yeah, come over to the land of dreamy wonder. You know, it's like, it's great over here. It's great. And just call. All you got to do is decide, and you'll be there. Not so. Not so. It's a reinterpretation. It's not like I pass out and everything's wonderful.
Right.
It's I see that pain, that affliction, that physical thing, that third world war. I see these things as the nexus of truth. Okay, the nexus of truth. God didn't have to. Okay, it's not like God doesn't do a number like they did in Pruitt-Igoe in St. Louis, where he takes bulldozers and bulldoze the illusion and build a wonderful heaven on top. God doesn't have to take this thing down. God is so incredibly efficient, loving, wonderful, fantastically gifted that he said, "Hey, you got an illusion? Let's make it a gateway to the truth." Let's make it a gateway to the truth. Every illusory, difficult problem that you have is a gateway
Well, that's what the Holy Spirit is. It is the bridge. It is the bridge from truth to between the two.
I'll know I'm healed when my hip feels better. I know I'm healed when I'm handsome again.
Yeah.
I know I'm healed when everybody loves me.
Yes.
No. You'll know you're healed when you're at peace in your mind and you see the beauty of God.
If it doesn't heal the mind, it's going to be temporary. It's going to be just a temporary fix, and there'll be the next thing. It'll be the next thing that disturbs your peace, and that's that. You'll have to call on the Holy Spirit again.
We've got to be self-honest. I've got to be self-honest that when I'm looking for healing, I'm looking for a change, I'm looking for something better, I'm experiencing a lack, I'm experiencing a wound, I'm experiencing a sickness because I'm out of square with the truth, and I'm confused and I'm floating like that. The body ain't got nothing to do with it. I've got to put that down.
Right.
And this is the challenge of all this, because it says they are naturally connected, and we hide that connection between the separation.
No, they're not connected.
No, the idea of separation produced the body and remains connected to it.
Oh, yeah.
The body seen at its best, at its most healthy, at its most vital, is sick.
Right. Because it believes it is a body. That is the sickness. That is the sickness. The sickness is that we're schizophrenic.
The wellest body you can find is as sick as they come.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
the more emphasis you put on it, like building muscles and trying to do everything and making yourself more beautiful and everything else, you make it more and more real, and it's the thing that needs to go out in the world and present itself a certain way. That then, if anything happens to it, like, gosh, you're lost without the thing that you've made of it.
A fortress is a fortress. And if it's got paper thin walls and it gets run over, and you want to fix that fortress by making the walls a foot thick and they get run over, and then the idea is to make them 4 feet thick, that's all that's doing is healing the idea of defense, healing the idea of separation, healing the idea of attack. You understand what I'm saying? It's not healing at all. It's making your sickness deeper. This is what it's warning against.
Right. Agreed.
Okay. Paragraph 8. If you but understood how much this strange concealment has hurt your mind, and how confused your own identification has become because of it, you do not see how great the devastations wrought by your faithlessness. For faithlessness is an attack that seems to be justified by its results. For by withholding faith, you see what is unworthy of it, and cannot look beyond the barriers the barrier to what is joined with you. For by withholding faith, you see what is unworthy of it, and cannot look beyond the barrier to what is joined with you. So I'm in union with the Holy Spirit. I'm in union with the truth. There's a natural ebb and flow, the truth in and out, and the peace and the calm. It's a very calm situation. But this separation that is held in place by faithlessness meaning I don't believe that I'm in this
Right.
ebb and flow of the truth. That's a natural part of what this substance is.
Right.
Because of that, I can't see what I'm joined with. I'm blinded. I'm blinded by my faithlessness. And it says you cannot understand, you can't grasp.
Right. And faithlessness keeps the illusion, makes the illusion seem real. The faithlessness continues to, keep the illusion, thoughts, and everything else of my mind is just that which is in a body, and therefore that is because at the very beginning it says, if you but understood how strange the concealment has hurt your mind and how confused your own identification has become because of it. Because we're hiding the connection that we made, that the separation caused. My belief in separation caused the body to be manifest to begin with, the belief in it, and so we keep it concealed, and that has hurt my mind.
The body is neutral. I know I've said that 4,000 times. The body is neutral, but what we don't understand is, on a daily basis, every time I sit or stand or eat food that I like or don't like, the body becomes charged with judgments, grievances. So that the body, though neutral in its essence, the mind projects every issue it has into, on, and through the body. It's why? It's because the body was invented for that very purpose.
You're right. It was. Right.
To
make the separation real.
Yeah, that's what the purpose of the body is. Though its essence is like an empty puppet, that's waiting for a hand to fill it. The natural hand that fills the body is the ego. That's the natural partnership.
Yes, and yet it cannot be animated without spirit.
But right, but this is the reason that we go through these difficulties, and why there's a Course in Miracles with so many pages, and there's the idea that you have to study, or the idea that it's difficult, or the idea that it's a long process, is because the partnership of the ego and its thought system with the body is sort of native to that. They're natural with one another, and they form a consistent, persistent, very compelling whole system. And that this whole idea of Holy Spirit is right there. But the learning is to extract myself from that egoic natural partnership of the ego and what it expects, and the body and what it experiences. To extract myself from that as the witness, and through the happy witnesses, and through miracle-mindedness, and through this, I place my attention on that partnership with a different mind, a different body.
Right.
The Holy Spirit provides a different body, and the thing about the Holy Spirit's body is, I leave a body, when I leave the body that I'm with it's this body, this is it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when I go with the Holy Spirit, it includes yours.
Yeah.
And yours.
Right.
It
is the sonship at that point.
It includes
is the body
everything.
Of all. Yeah.
The Holy Spirit doesn't need a body. It uses all of what I would ever consider a body to convey the truth to me.
To have faith is to heal. It is the sign that you have accepted the atonement for yourself and would therefore share it. By faith, you offer the gift of freedom from the past, which you received. You do not use anything your brother has done before to condemn him now. You freely choose to overlook his errors, looking past all barriers between yourself and him and seeing them as one. In that one, you see your faith is fully justified. There is no justification for faithlessness, but faith is always justified. All of your efforts into that you want the truth for this situation, whatever you're troubled with when you want to do that, it requires faith to see the truth. So that's how the truth and faith are united. Without faith, you cannot have truth. And what the faith is in my brother and in the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is now going to work through the whole situation, which is mostly involves your brothers and how you perceive them, your judgments and everything else. Is going to use the situation to show you the truth that will set us free. Because, well, we see each other as bodies and as separate. So I can't do that. Of myself, I can do nothing. I must join with the Holy Spirit. I must unite with Jesus, or however you like to proceed, in knowing that you're going to be unified with that which is already at one with God, so that you can remember that you're a son of God.
Well, at the risk of being redundant, to have faith is to heal, I would say, means that if I have that confidence in the thing unseen, which is the sanity, the salvation that was adhered or glued up to the illusion at the first place. So that the illusion, proper view of the illusion can show me the truth.
Perception that's healed can show the truth.
Right. And so it's necessary to have faith that there is that system. There is a system of that, and that is the healing itself. That is the healing itself. It's not, a lot of times when I use the word faith, well, you got to have faith that such and such and so and so. In other words, have faith in a certain person or have faith in their activity. It's not guaranteed. You don't know that it's going to pay off or not. And what this is saying is your faith is the payoff. The faith itself is the payoff, is the healing.
Right. You'll know that you've actually sided with faith, sided with the Holy Spirit, sided with the truth by the culmination of peace.
When it says it, second sentence, you've accepted the atonement for yourself.
Yes.
You have accepted the atonement. If you have faith, you have accepted the atonement as a real thing.
Right. And by faith, you offer the gift of freedom from the past, which you received. Because just through the act, and you have to remember that giving and receiving is one and the same. Just by the fact of offering the situation up to the Holy Spirit, you have now decided for the atonement or the atonement. And that allows for you to have the gift of freedom from the past, which you received. You do not use anything your brother has done before to condemn him now. Why? Because you are already beginning to notice that you yourself are sinless, because you feel that it's a just different sense of self.
Yes. In other words, we live sequentially. This happened yesterday. That proves out that it will probably happen tomorrow. We live in that narrative sequential basis. And the Course is saying faith is to get rid of that narrative sequential basis.
Yes.
You eliminate it. You get rid of it.
Right.
In other words, let's say today I feel wounded by situation X. And in that situation X, certain people are behaving in certain ways, doing certain dastardly deeds somehow. That's situation X. Now, I reach out to the Holy Spirit. I have faith. I say, let's see what happens here. And it says, forget what you think you know. Forget what you think those people did. Because the healing through the Holy Spirit is independent of any people, players, roles, or behaviors. It's independent of those things. Another way to look at it is it's the proverbial lightning bolt. Where I might have a feeling like, well, there's no way this can possibly happen. There's no way that this can happen. Well, a lightning bolt comes down and eliminates whatever that problem was.
Right.
Wow, we didn't think about the lightning bolt.
Right.
So reality and matter and my narrative understanding of things rearranges itself in the miracle, in the holy instant,
Right.
when I have faith, I'm setting it up to say, rearrange thou self, rearrange, so that all the people I think that behave as they always did in the past, let's say I'm unforgiven, somebody gives me grief for 2 straight decades, and they are a certain thing. In the miracle, or actually in this moment of faith, I have to say, it doesn't matter what they ever did. It doesn't matter what they ever said. It doesn't matter what I think their history is. I'm interested only in the truth. And the truth is that unification, and that the only barrier
Yes.
between me and that other aren't the million things they did wrong or that I did wrong over the past.
Right.
Those are unified into one sort of what would you call it, metaphorical reality of the separation. The error, the split, the
Yes.
separation that went before
That's
all
the
things.
one. That's the one error. That's it. That's it.
So, and I don't understand it because it happened so long ago.
Okay. Shall we go on?
Paragraph 10. Faith is the opposite of fear, as much a part of love as fear is of attack. Faith is the acknowledgement of union. It is the gracious acknowledgement of everyone as a son of your most loving Father, loved by him like you, and therefore loved by you as yourself. It is his love that joins you and your brother, and for his love you would keep no one separate from yours. Each one appears just as he is perceived in the holy instant, united in your purpose to be released from guilt. You see the Christ in him, and he is healed because you look on what makes faith forever justified in everyone. Now, I don't know how much of this, as I said, is redundant, but it's worth it to know that it's two separate, to remember again and again, I have a situation where I want healing, I want the miracle, I want a reinterpretation, I want to receive the truth. And instead of getting the truth, my mind is split, I don't have peace, things are not going the way I think they should, but I want the truth. Okay, that's where it is. Now, the gateway to the truth is, number one, faith. Faith, meaning there is another way. I'm getting lost between miracles, holy instants, and this whole conversation on faith and
They all
healing.
kind of wrap all into one sometimes.
I want to try to ground it in something that has some historic basis. A friend of mine back in the day, he used to keep a backpack by his back door, and he made it sound like he was a man on the go. So I felt intimidated by this guy. I felt very, very mediocre and mundane, and I felt intimidated by this person. He had no desire to make me feel small, and yet every time I was around this guy, I did, in fact, feel small, because he seemed to have everything under control, wrapped up. Now, at some point in this, and I wasn't doing the Course in Miracles at this time, for some reason, I saw this guy as like my brother, literally my brother, my actual brother. And when I saw him as my brother, I realized that, first of all, my brother, he's 12 years younger than me, and he doesn't intimidate me. When I saw him that way, he literally became like my brother, and his ability to intimidate me just completely vanished. And instead, I heard him reassuring himself that he was going to be out the door. And in fact, what I really saw was that he was basically a slave to his job the same way I was. And that, he had a similar value system and everything. He wasn't the great adventurer. I had put him on a pedestal based on the things he said. So his behavior didn't change.
Right.
But I no longer felt small around this person. So this healing and this thing about overlooking your brother's past and overlooking what your brother may have done or not done, it doesn't mean that somehow, because it says that last line is, you look on what makes faith forever justified in everyone. I have faith in this other guy. It's as a son of God.
As a son of God.
Not because his behavior is going to change. It doesn't. It's because I receive the truth. I get that other, that's the thing, the gift of the Holy Spirit is the truth. In other words, I understand, he's more like my brother. He's not like, Peter Matheson, the great nature, writer, outdoorsman.
Paragraph 11. Faith is the gift of God through him whom God has given you. Faithlessness looks upon the Son of God and judges him unworthy of forgiveness. But through the eyes of faith, the Son of God is seen already forgiven, free of all the guilt he laid upon himself. Faith sees him only now because it looks not to the past to judge him, but would see in him only what it would see in you. It sees not through the body's eyes, nor looks to bodies for its justification. It is the messenger of the new perception, sent forth to gather witnesses unto its coming and to return their messages to you. Well, your example kind of plays into that, doesn't it? At the very end there.
Yeah.
It sees not through the body's eyes, nor looks to bodies for its justification. It is the messenger of the new perception, sent forth to gather witnesses. What would you say the witness was that you actually had no strange interactions with him anymore?
No, the witness was that when he said and did exactly the same things as he had ever done, which made me feel small, I noticed that he was a different person than I thought he was. In other words, we all have, I don't mean to say it this way, we all have insecurities.
Yes.
We all have a need to be important. We all have these, and I recognized that the front that he threw out there that I was buying, it, was not, I was reading it at face value, and I wasn't seeing that it was coming out of his own reassurance to himself and his own need to make himself feel sort of large in a group of people and like an adventurer,
Right.
a classic sort of adventurer with his notepad and his big hiking boots and his backpack and yodeling on the top of the Alps or whatever. He had all that stuff going on. Now,
Yeah.
the thing is, as a little something that would inform that, I had some quite hilarious interactions with this guy where I completely manifested smallness to a huge degree. I don't know why. Well, he went to Harvard.
Oh, well, yeah.
He went to
That could be
Harvard. He had
intimidating.
hiked all over. He did all this photography. Now, I wasn't crazy about his photography, and the travel that he did was like 15 years earlier, or 10 years earlier, whatever it was. And that he always went back to the same stories. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I actually did, because of my sense of buying the Harvard story and the different ways that he was, that I bought an image of himself that was aggressive, that was oppressive to me. I bought it, I ran with it, I lived by it, and I manifested events in our lives, in my interactions with him, until
The switch in perception.
that switch in perception. At point, really, I didn't have that many interactions with. It's almost like I wanted him to be a witness that would make me feel small. That's why I wanted him there.
Right.
And he played into that, and that's why I bought it, is because I needed to be a shrimp.
Yeah.
Why? Because I felt like I was stuck in Memphis, Tennessee, and I needed to be released to my greater self. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
This idea of faith creates that funny loop that you're talking about.
Right.
It creates it. And so, like, if I went back to the story about my son-in-law, and I went back to that situation for lack of a better, fresher example, it was my judgment, and I was very, very clear. Out of his lips, I heard my own judgment of myself, my own frustration with myself. And through his intensity of, let's say, not wanting to hear me chatter on and on about personality typing, okay? That's a frustrating thing. You don't want to hear it. So he comes at me with virtually a sort of an attack, but I didn't get an attack from my son-in-law. I had the attack from myself, and it was my own. It was just clear to me, and this is where the miracle comes in. This is where the faith comes in. I didn't hear it coming from him, like, oh, he's telling me about myself. It was simultaneous in my brain that I don't like me talking. Mm-hmm. I don't like me mentalizing. It's a problem. It makes me awkward. And as soon as I think about that, I have that attitude towards myself, it makes it difficult for me to just run my mouth, without some self-inspection or some self-awareness. Mm-hmm. So it's not like it made my life smooth or wonderful, but I did realize that I have a true situation, which is, despite the fact that I'm willing to talk a lot about a lot of things that I may or may not know anything about even, I don't like that aspect of myself. I have to forgive myself. Now,
and the funny thing is that once you forgive yourself, you're forgiven the other. And likewise, that's why I say it's one and the same. If it seemed as though I was offering forgiveness to the other, I would be offering it to myself immediately at the same time, because giving and receiving are one and the same. That's why where you offer the forgiveness will actually allow you to see whether it's the self first or the other first. It's all you.
But go with it, because what I'm thinking and my experience so far has been that when I have asked for, when I'm trying to do the partnership, I'm trying to, whatever this process is, and forgiveness has to enter, mm-hmm. It blasts me in the face. It does not extend out to me. I don't have any possibility of the illusion that I just forgave somebody.
Right.
I don't have any possibility of that illusion, that out of the largeness of my heart, I was able.
That's what we associate it with. But forgiveness actually just heals the barrier between me and the other. So, however you want to look at that, because
I wanted to jump in and say it because the way you were saying it, mm-hmm. in terms of the aspect of forgiving someone, when I forgive another person, I'm forgiving myself.
Yes.
And we can go away from that with a mental construct that I have forgiven that person, therefore I've forgiven myself. I'm telling you that my experience in the Course in Miracles is, if you forgave yourself, and it's not a mental trip, that it's that mirror is crystal clear, mm-hmm. and you're getting a real look at yourself. And it's not a matter of, well, I let him off the hook, I forgive myself for the same stuff. It's not mental.
No, it isn't mental.
It's an experience. In the case of my son-in-law, it was an experience of me coming at me. Mm-hmm. That's what makes it a miracle. That's mm-hmm. not normal. That's not part of this construct. Mm-hmm. And so that if you do forgive that person over there that gives you a hard time, that you mm-hmm. feel like they need forgiveness, it won't happen until you see some truth about yourself.
Yeah, right.
It won't happen.
I agree. That same thing happened when I in another podcast I mentioned I was having trouble with our choral director or whatever, mm-hmm. for a while, and I suddenly recognized. I said all the things that are bothering me about her are exactly how I go about the whole music scene. And that I'm just as much a perfectionist as she is, and I want things to go a certain way, and so it was just a huge reflection that I had to forgive myself because she's me. It was just a perfect reflection in that instant.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
So paragraph 12. Faith is as easily exchanged for knowledge as is the real world. For faith arises from the Holy Spirit's perception and is the sign you share it with him. Faith is a gift you offer to the Son of God through him and wholly acceptable to his Father as to him, and therefore offered you. Your holy relationship with its new purpose offers you faith to give unto your brother. Your faithlessness has driven you and him apart, and so you do not recognize salvation in him. Yet faith unites you in the holiness you see not through the body's eyes, but in the sight of him who joined you and in whom you are united. We've talked about this in another place, and I think it's some of the reason I'm starting to wonder if I have brain fog or something, But I think some of the brain fog issue of this chapter is that we're talking about access to the real world. We want access to the real world. And it's giving me two definite pathways. One is the real world, exchange for knowledge, as is the real world. Another is working through the miracle and forgiveness. Miracle, forgiveness, grievances, as a system. Now, on the other hand, we have a system of faith. We've talked about this before, but I think it's an important point. Two accesses to knowledge. One is the real world, the other is faith. Real world, faith, knowledge. Knowledge of God, the mind of God. There's two gates, two ways. What do you say about this? I'm having deja vu. We had this conversation already.
Right. So faith is associated with, faith is required. It is a requirement for truth to be revealed. So, and what is the other one? It's the holy instant. Is that what you're comparing it with, or what?
Here it says
forgiveness.
the two ways it has here is the real world and faith. It's got those two ways. Faith is as easily exchanged for knowledge. That's the mind of God.
As is the
real world. So having attained the real world, I gain knowledge.
Yes.
Having exercised faith, I gain knowledge. Same knowledge, two different ways.
Right.
We want knowledge. Faith is one way to get there. The real world is the other way to get there. Faith is not the real world. The real world is not faith. This is why we're having some confusion. There's two definite ways, and I'm conflating them. I'm running them together. In order to make sense out of my brain fog, I'm going to say that this paragraph separates it clearly, that we have one thing we're going for. There's only one thing, the truth.
Okay.
Hang in there.
Okay.
We want the truth, right?
Okay, yes.
Don't we want the truth?
Yes, we
Numero
want.
uno. That's all
yes,
we care about.
I want the truth, yes.
I don't really even care about the real world.
Okay. Right.
I don't really even care about faith.
Want the truth.
I want God. I want the truth. I want peace.
Right.
That's what the goal is. I want the true nature of my reality.
Yes.
The real world isn't. That's a shadow that was created. The real world is a shadow of the illusory world. In other words, I'm in the world. I apologize. I'm in the world of the illusion.
You got me lost.
I'm in the illusion.
Yes, I'm in the illusion.
What's the solution to the illusion?
Forgiveness.
The solution to the illusion. What is it?
Forgiveness.
Yeah, but it's to gain the real world. The solution to the illusion
Yes, is to gain the real
is the
world.
real world.
Yes.
Is the real world the mind of God?
Yeah, they're the same.
No, they're not. It's a shadow. And the real world will be absorbed into the mind of God. The real world is not. The real world is the joy, the happiness, the peace, the love, the fact that...
So are you saying the real world is the happy dream?
Yes.
Okay.
The real world is the happy dream. Is
Okay.
that I'm in an illusion. God created an immediate solution to my illusion.
Yes, he did.
And that was through the Holy Spirit. And through access to the Holy Spirit, I gain the real world. The real world being the happy dream. And then when I'm in the happy dream, that's a step short of knowledge. And then God takes the last step to knowledge. God takes the last step to knowledge. So the real world then allows that last step to happen. Okay. Faith is another way, and it's different. Faith is different than that. These are two different ways. And faith also allows that last step to knowledge, to the mind of God.
Faith definitely leads to knowledge. I think my confusion is on that one, and I would have to get clarification on it to really know.
Well,
okay.
But
I'll go with it.
There's two stairways, like...
Two stairways to heaven.
Two stairways to heaven. One is the real world and whatever it takes to get clear of the illusion.
Okay.
And
the happy dream.
and then the other is faith. So my little goal, my objective for this paragraph in this reading is to try and understand why the Course is offering me two distinct ways. They're not the same, or it wouldn't give me two distinct modalities to achieve.
I don't know. Actually, that's one of those
Well, I
ones.
know you're throwing your hands up in the air, and I'm telling you, I'm thinking out loud.
Okay.
I'm going to say that there are situations and circumstances that faith is the way to go. Faith is the way to proceed. Then there are situations and circumstances where understanding or achieving the real world is the way to proceed. And the difference between the two is when I feel offended and when I'm in a situation where I have grievances.
Right.
Okay, I have literal grievances. The obvious pathway is through forgiveness, the miracle, thus achieving the happy witnesses, which are testimony to the real world.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's when I feel grievances. That's when I feel affronted by reality somehow.
Okay.
In a way that seems to demand forgiveness. That there has to be some forgiveness there. I would say it's specific blows that take away my peace or disturb me somehow.
Right.
Particular
We feel
blows.
invalued. We feel all of a sudden
Right.
it's like something just trips our buttons, and there you go.
Right. So that forgiveness is in order. The other way requiring faith is that I wake up in the morning. There are no grievances. I don't have any beef with anybody. And I say, I turn this over to you. I partner with you in this process that I'm in. That the day that unfolds is one of faith, and I keep this faith in my mind of the difference between faithlessness. In other words, I recognize I'm lapsing into faithlessness when I start making my own decisions. I don't have any grievances.
Right.
I don't have any grievances. I just know what needs to be done.
Right.
And that in itself is an attack. That faithlessness, I know what needs to be done. The Course is saying that is an attack.
Right. Yeah, I can see.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
now?
I do. I understand what you're saying.
And it takes a while to get it, to clarify it. I think it's an important point of clarity. Most of the time that we go through our lives, we're not being attacked by anyone. In fact, I am attacking my day. I am attacking the tasks of my life. In those, faith is called for. So I say, I will not use my faithlessness today. I will not use my way of approaching the bugs in the garden, the health concern, the this, the this,
Right,
the this.
right.
I'm a warrior. I'm General Patton. I've got my troops and my tanks, and I'm ready to mobilize, and I'm okay with that. That's how I've lived my whole life.
Right.
And the Course is saying, don't be General Patton. Turn it over to the Holy Spirit, and this is faith. That there is another way, not your big idea. It's somebody else's big idea, God's big idea.
God's big idea.
Now, do you see
And
that?
His will is your will.
But do you see the distinct difference between a path of grievances and forgiveness
Yes.
versus a path of me abandoning my usual ways of attacking my life?
Yes.
Two separate ways. One, maybe we can put it even simply. When it comes to the real world, I perceive myself being attacked. Okay? Now, when faith is called for is when I, in fact, am attacking, and I don't realize it.
When that's faithlessness when you're attacking.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm living a faithless life.
Right.
I'm practicing faithlessness, which is an attack on life. But I don't recognize that. How many people, when you
Right.
wake up and you're going to balance your checkbook and go down there and pay some bills and do some stuff and make some phone calls and complain to the city because they charge you too much, you're just business as usual.
Right.
But you could well be on the attack all day long and not know it.
Yeah. Right.
So instead, you say, wait, I've been in my bunker.
Uh-huh.
I'm approaching the world in a certain way. It's a different different setup. What do you think about this take on this? What do you think about what I'm saying?
I don't know. I actually don't know what to think about it because I'm gonna have to keep reading to
Okay.
to actually put it all together.